All right, hello, welcome to MMJ-2311 Multimedia Writing. I'm John Mark Dempsey, and this is the first time we've done this course online. I'm kind of pleased about that, and I hope you're looking forward to it as well. So it's going to be a little bit different, but I think it'll be good. Let me say a word or two about writing in general as we get started. Most media content is written. So all forms of news, whether it be news that appears in print in the newspaper, television, radio, online, is written. Radio DJ comments certainly may seem to be ad-libbed, and some of them are, but a lot of times they're reading from what's called a liner card, and they're skilled enough to make it sound like it's ad-libbed, but it's actually written. Commercials are written, television, radio, streaming commercials, print advertising, television sitcoms and dramas, movies certainly are written and go through many drafts before the movie is actually filmed and edited. Social media posts certainly are written. So writing, despite all the technological advances, writing is still essential. Writing's still very much with us and is going to be. And that's not going to change. In this course, we will start with basic print-style news writing that would be appropriate for newspapers, but also now is used on media web pages. It's the basic form of writing news for the web. But we will also cover broadcast-style writing for TV and radio and streaming media. We will get into commercial writing. We will talk about blogging and do some blogging. We will write for social media posts, and you'll have a chance to try your hand at TV or movie screenwriting or script writing for a drama or a comedy or whatever you like. So you may look forward to that, and a lot of people find that to be kind of a fun. When we write something, we are communicating with another person whom we may never see. But that person is reading what we have written. And that's a valuable thing. That's a very important thing. Now, I'm happy to work with you individually on your writing. And by the way, you should always carefully read my comments on the work that I return to you. Don't just look at the grade and forget about it. I've spent a good deal of time telling you why I think something is good or how it can be better. So be sure to read those comments. But you may also receive help at the A&M Commerce Writing Center. I will show you their webpage. Of course, you have access to this outline in my Leo 2DL, but they exist to help everyone with their writing, and they're in David Talbot Hall, which a lot of you are familiar with. First floor, you go in the front door, and it's just to your right. So they are there to help you, and I hope that you'll take advantage of that, okay? All right, so we'll get into some of the particulars. Sit down and write, and then sometimes we just have to sort of get started. Here's, I'm not going to show you a lot of this, but again, you can go back and watch these in their entirety and watch them, to the extent that they're helpful to you. There's some basic tips here for news writing. We're going to start off talking about news writing.
Hello, this is D.L. Hughes from VelocityWriting.com. In this video, we're looking at how to write a news story. No matter what information you write, the journalistic style is a winner. Journalistic stories grab reader attention with a headline that stops them in their tracks. Now, this is not news. It's so common. Now, this is news, and a headline you can sink your teeth into. Always go for the eye catcher, but don't be cutesy. Examine major newspapers and news websites to see what headlines grab your attention and learn from that. There's no fluff in a news story, just the facts, ma'am, as Dragnet Sergeant Joe Friday used to say. In a news story, you quickly discover those facts by asking these questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now, you can write an interesting and informative story when you ask the simple questions and then, very importantly, listen to what people say.
Okay, we'll stop that at that point. Again, this is longer than we have time to spend watching the whole thing, but I do hope that you will go back and watch this, because he's going to give you some very good basics for news writing. Basics of AP style. This is an article. I'm not going to read this article to you. You can look at it at your own convenience. We will be talking about something called Associated Press style, which is a standardized way of writing that people who are in the media are familiar with. And it's a little bit different for print style writing and broadcast style writing. We'll get into that. We're going to do some exercises, and we'll have some quizzes that will be related to AP style. And you can have a look at the syllabus and see more about that. But AP style will be an important part of what we do. So that article would be helpful for you to look at. Ideas drive people and society. This is a little bit of what the Jacqueline, who was in the first video that we saw, that's a bit of what she was getting at. Ideas drive people and society, but they have no power until they are written down or they are conveyed from one person to another in some way. So good media writing is efficient. It uses a minimum number of words. We're going to come back to that idea a lot. A minimum number of words. It is precise. It uses words for their exact meanings. It's important to choose the right word to convey the particular idea that we're trying to put across. It is clear, leaves no doubt as to its meaning. It is modest in that it does not try to draw attention to itself. Now, there are forms of writing that don't exactly follow that particular value, but for the most part, we're trying to convey information. We're not really trying to draw attention to ourselves as writers. As a media writer, you are writing to communicate with a mass audience. This will always be true. You are not writing for the purpose of self-expression, right? So this is something that maybe if we were dealing with poetry or short story writing, that'd be another matter. But in media writing, we are attempting to please an audience. And so that is first and foremost in our mind. Edit and rewrite. Good writers are not too easily satisfied. They should often say to themselves, this isn't really what I wanted to say. I can do better. So you reread, you edit, and you rewrite. So that's an important concept to understand. Let me show you a little bit of video here on editing yourself.
I like to share with people. Hello, let's discuss the importance of proofreading or editing your work. Now, proofreading is the final stage in the writing process. Whether you are writing a business letter, a formal report, a memo, an essay, an article, an email for work, or a paragraph, you should always check your writing for errors, because what you write is lasting. It leaves a lasting impression. It can't be changed once you've sent an email or written a report or written a business letter. So proofreading is a crucial step in the writing process.
I'm going to move this up a little bit.
The first tip is to read your essay or business letter or resume or report or any other piece of writing that's important to you. I tell students and people that I've worked with to read it aloud and slowly. Go to the privacy of your room, take your time, and read it aloud. Reading aloud helps you to find problem areas. You may hear some awkward sentences or phrasing. You may notice that you've misused punctuation or omitted a piece of punctuation, and you might see that some of your sentences or paragraphs do not flow. They don't run together. So when you take your time and read it out loud, that really does help. Here's another proofreading pointer or tip that I like to give adults. And another trick is to read your writing line by line, taking your time. It helps to get a piece of paper or a ruler, and you can cover each paragraph and then read your writing line by line.
Okay, we'll pause it there. Again, there's a lot of information there. You can read more of it for yourself. But just the idea that you need to go back and make changes, most likely, to your writing. I find myself going back and correcting things I have written on Facebook from time to time, because I'll go back and realize, oh gosh, I misspelled that, or made a typo, or whatever. So that needs to be something that you sort of ingrain into yourself and the writing process. Basic techniques: we want to write simply. Don't want to try to impress people with the complexity of our sentences or the vocabulary that we have. In media writing, we write simply. Use simple words, and simple words are more powerful. Use instead of utilize. Many instead of numerous. So we like to use simple language in media writing. Use simple sentences. Often it is helpful to break a long and complicated sentence, that's called a run-on sentence, into two or more short and simple sentences. This is really important. And I will come back to this again and again. The idea that two short, simple sentences are better than one long, complicated sentence. That idea alone will make a big difference in your writing. Again, here's a short video on the idea of run-on sentences.
If you manage a team, you have to try Monday.com. Monday.com is a platform to track.
Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about a couple really common mistakes in writing that students often make, which are run-on sentences and comma splices. Okay, so the first one, the run-on sentence, simply means when you put two or more independent clauses in one sentence without the proper punctuation. In fact, usually with no punctuation at all. If you look at these two examples, Amanda has a good job, she never has to worry about money. And from the second story came a cry for help, firefighters rushed into the burning building. Now those are run-on sentences because you have two complete ideas and no punctuation. So in order to fix that, you have to insert either a comma and a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon. Okay, so let's take a look at some revised versions. Amanda has a good job, so she never has to worry about money. Or, with just a semicolon, Amanda has a good job, she never has to worry about money. And the second sentence, from the second story came a cry for help, and firefighters rushed into the burning building.
I'm going to pause that just for a second. So, again, what we're looking for here, if I can get to the point, there we go, where he improved on the first sentence. Amanda has a good job, comma, so she never has to worry about money. We need to tie the two parts of those sentences that are again, separate ideas, separate thoughts, tie them together, first of all with the comma that you see there after job, and then the conjunction so. And that ties those parts of the sentence together. I'm not a big fan of the semicolon for media writing. I'll talk more about that later. Don't worry too much about it right now, but we'll come back to the idea of the semicolon. Practice brevity. Shakespeare says brevity is the soul of wit. If someone tells you a joke, you hope that they will tell it quickly. and not go on and on and on, because that gets to be quite tedious. So brevity, briefness, is everything when it comes to telling a joke. Brevity is the soul of wit. Eliminate unnecessary words. There's a good video here. I think that I will leave that one to you to watch, because I don't want to take up too much of your time with videos, but there's a very good video there on the subject of brevity, briefness. Eliminate jargon and cliches, bureaucrat ease. We want to use everyday, normal language that average people, ordinary people will understand. Vary sentence type and length. So there are different types of sentences, which we'll talk about, but in particular, when we say we don't want long sentences, but some sentences will be longer than others. Some will be a little bit more complex than others. You'll have some compound sentences, which is what we were looking at a moment ago, where we tied the two parts of the sentence together with a comma and a conjunction. That's a compound sentence. So you don't want the same length and the same type of construction of the sentence after sentence. That gets to be tedious. Nouns and verbs, the most basic words. Verbs are the most important words. The verbs indicate action: run, walk, talk, jump, fly, swim. Okay? Conveying action. And those verbs, when you use good verbs, then your writing has a lot of vigor and energy to it. Transitions tie ideas and sentences together. And so let's see this video on the idea of transitions.
How to write a good transition sentence. I'll hush 'em up. You can't go from the highway to anywhere else without an exit ramp. You can't get from one classroom to another without going down a hallway. And you can't go from one point to another in an essay without a transition. So how do you write good transition sentences? Transition sentences exist to guide your reader from one idea to the next. You don't want to jump from talking about Violet Beauregard to talking about serial killers without some sort of transition. Unless your reader really hates Willy Wonka or blueberries, they're not going to follow that logic. If an essay represents your train of thought, each of the paragraphs are different cars on this train. They need to be hooked together by a strong transition, or one of them is going to jump the tracks. And if that's the dining car, well, it's going to make a huge mess. Think of the feedback you've received from your teacher or peers. If they've called your work choppy or disjointed or hard to follow, you might just need a few good transitions to get your essays back on track. The first thing to try is simply use transition words such as next and however to link your paragraphs together, like this and this.
So let's pause this just for a second and look at what he's talking about, at least the first sentence. In the mouth, comma, the food is broken down by chewing. Next, transition word. It passes through the esophagus into the stomach for further digestion. That word next just sort of helps to orient the reader and helps the reader follow the idea from one idea to the next. The next one, the writer promised to attend his mother's birthday party, semicolon. However, his literary award ceremony is scheduled for the same day. That word, however, indicates, there's a problem. There's a complication here, and it ties the two parts of that complex, fairly complex compound sentence together. So next is a transition, however is a transitional word. Notice that a comma follows each one of those. That's also important. Spelling, avoid misspelled words above all. This is the thing that will cause more problems for you in this class anyway than anything else. This is entirely under your control. Pay attention to red and green underlines in your writing. That's a warning. to you, especially the red indicate misspellings. Use spell check. Spell check alone is not enough. You still need to go back, and as our friend a few moments ago was talking about, reading the story preferably aloud to yourself, but at least use spell check, okay? But the spelling, that is something that you can pretty easily avoid. We'll talk more at some point about the inverted pyramid, which is real fundamental to media writing and any kind of news writing. The idea is that the most important thing goes at the top. And I'm not going to show you the video here. You can look at it yourself if you want to. We'll have another opportunity to talk about the inverted pyramid. But the most important information, or the information that has the most weight, goes to the top. In a literal, a real, physical pyramid, the weight is at the bottom. That's the foundation. But with the conceptual inverted pyramid, the most important thing, the thing that has the most weight, goes to the top. Okay? And then facts are presented in declining order of importance. So then the next most important thing, and then the next most important thing, and then the next most, down to the least important thing. That's called the inverted pyramid, and we'll talk a lot about that. We don't present ideas necessarily, and probably not, chronologically. It's conceivable that they might be chronological, but most of the time they're not. Another thing that's important is attribution. Who says so? So when we quote someone, a lot of times in media writing, we are reporting information that we have obtained from someone else. We don't have direct knowledge of that information ourselves, so it's important to indicate who says so, because that they might not be correct. So we report what they said, but we indicate this is what Coach Sam Walker said, or this is what Mayor Wyman Williams said. I'm not making this claim myself. This is information that I obtained from someone else, presumably a responsible, authoritative person. That's called attribution. Who says so? And that's going to be a big important part, especially in the early part of what we do in this class. Proper identification of individuals, full name. In the first reference, so we would say Coach Sam Walker, Mayor Wyman Williams, first reference. And then after that, then we would just refer to Walker or Williams, and not by first name and not by the title. Okay, that is writing requires discipline. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It does require discipline. It's a way of learning to think in a critical way. Writing will help you in many ways beyond just the skill that is necessary to be in the media and have a career in the media. It'll help you in your thinking and therefore in your life. Writing is building word by word, sentence by sentence, and conveying ideas to an audience, or certainly at the very least another individual. And reading promotes good writing. We've already talked about that. All right, so that's enough for this time, and there's more to come. So follow along on my Leo 2DL. I'll have announcements for you, and also at times I may send you emails, and we will communicate with each other. All right, thanks, and we'll see you next time.